Taking the case. Look, I know what you're thinking. Monster Hunter sounds glamorous, right? Exciting, maybe even heroic. It's not. It's 3 a.m. Gas station coffee that tastes like burnt rubber. Sleeping in your truck because motels ask too many questions about the blood. And realizing that every temporary gig you ever took somehow became your entire life. I'm Dean. I hunt things that shouldn't exist, get paid in cash when I'm lucky and promises when I'm not, and operate out of a rented office that smells like old carpet and regret. Most days, nobody shows up. The ones who do usually can't pay. I take the cases anyway. I was 3 days into living off stale gas station pastries and that particular brand of stubbornness you develop after realizing you're never going back to a normal job. My office, a converted storage unit in a strip mall between a vape shop and a tax preparer, wasn't much to look at. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, one of them flickering in a rhythm that made my head ache. The walls were that particular shade of beige that exists solely in places where hope goes to die. Filing cabinets lined one wall, dented and covered in peeling stickers from energy drink brands I didn't recognize. A water cooler in the corner gurgled occasionally, like it was drowning. The door was propped open with a brick because the lock had broken 2 months ago and my landlord kept forgetting to fix it. I wasn't expecting clients. I was halfway through a day-old bear claw, scrolling through local obituaries. You'd be surprised how many monster cases hide in the tragic accident section. When the shadow fell across my desk, that's when Mrs. Addington walked into the office. She moved like a whisper someone forgot to finish saying. Her shawl was faded from decades of washing, frayed at the edges, pulled tight around her shoulders despite the stuffy heat. Her shoes didn't match, one black, one navy, like she'd dressed in the dark or simply stopped caring which pieces of her life still fit together. Her hands trembled as she held out a cross necklace like it was the last solid thing in her world, chain dangling between her fingers, catching the ugly fluorescent light. "Are you the hunter?" she asked, voice papery and tight, like she'd been holding her breath for hours. "Depends on what you're hunting," I said, setting down the bear claw. "My husband." I sat up straighter. "This is my Clyde's," she said, holding the necklace out like an offering. "He never slept without it. Not a night in 50 years. The story came in fragments, the way trauma always does. She'd woken to terrible sounds last night around 3 in the morning, crashing, wood splintering, and then screaming. Clyde screaming. Not words, just raw sounds of agony that no human throat should make. She ran to the bedroom doorway and into the hall. The door to the living room was closed, but she could hear something terrible happening on the other side. More crashing, more of those awful screams, getting deeper, more guttural, less human. She was terrified someone had broken in, was attacking him, killing him. She ran back to the bedroom, saw his necklace on the nightstand where he'd set it before bed, grabbed it without thinking. Proof. Evidence. Something. Then she heard heavy footsteps in the hallway. Not Clyde's shuffle, but something heavier. Wrong. She ran to the bedroom window, climbed out, ran to her car. She didn't look back. She drove to her sister's house 3 miles down the road, called the police from there. They took hours to respond. By the time she came back near dawn with her brother-in-law and a deputy, the front door was hanging open, broken from the inside. They wouldn't let her go in at first, made her wait outside while they checked the house. When they came out, they said it was clear, empty, but destroyed. The deputy had walked her through quickly so she could see if anything was missing. She described what she'd seen: furniture torn to pieces, walls gouged with deep scratches, Everything destroyed like an animal had been trapped inside. But no blood, no body, no Clyde. The deputy said it looked like a bear somehow got in, she said, voice flat. Said Clyde must have gotten out through the back and ran. They searched the property but didn't find him. Said they'd keep looking, but... Her voice cracked. I know my husband. He would have come to find me. He knows where my sister lives. If he'd escaped, he would have called, would have found me. Something's still in that house. Something took him. She held up the necklace. I took this when I ran. I thought, I don't know what I thought, that whoever was hurting him might want it, that I needed to keep it safe. His mother gave it to him before she died. He said it kept him safe. Tears finally came, silent and slow. I should have stayed, should have helped him, but I heard him screaming and I just ran. She wasn't hysterical. She wasn't demanding. She was simply hollowed out, standing there with that chain dangling from her fingers, eyes red-rimmed and guilty, waiting for someone, anyone, to tell her she'd done the right thing. I'd heard stories like this before. Different details, same shape, something unnatural, something that doesn't leave bodies because it doesn't need to. The police think he ran? I asked. They're calling it a missing person case now. They think the bear, or whatever it was, broke in. He escaped out the back, and now he's lost somewhere in the woods. But I know Clyde. He wouldn't leave me wondering. Not for a whole day. She paused. And the house, the way they described it, it wasn't like something broke in. It was like something was trying to break out. That got my attention. You said the door was broken from the inside. That's what the deputy said. The frame was splintered outward, like something forced it open from inside the house. I nodded slowly, taking the necklace from her hands. The silver was real, worn smooth from decades of wear, warm from being clutched in her hand. The chain was intact, well maintained despite its age. You did the right thing, I said quietly, running, taking this, coming here. Her eyes met mine for the first time, and something in them cracked open. Not hope, exactly, but something close. Relief, maybe. The knowledge that someone, at least, believed her. How much? She asked, reaching for a small purse. Let's see what we're dealing with first, I said, waving her off. You got an address? She pressed a folded piece of paper into my palm. Find him, she whispered. Please, I need to know if he's... I need to know. I nodded. She left without another word, moving like a ghost through the doorway and disappearing into the parking lot. I sat there for a long moment, holding the necklace, feeling the weight of it. Most people don't know where to find someone like me. They stumble across my office by accident, or desperation, or word of mouth from someone who knew someone who had a problem that couldn't be explained. I don't advertise. I don't have a website. Just a sign on the door that says Dean, Problem Solving, and a phone number that mostly goes to voicemail. The people who need me always find me eventually, and the ones who find me are always running out of time. I pocketed the necklace, grabbed my jacket, the one with the reinforced lining and the pockets sewn in for silver and salt and iron, and headed for the door. Because that's the thing about this job. The real monsters are easy to find. It's the people who need help that everyone else forgets. The drive to Ridgetop Hollow. The drive felt wrong from the moment I hit the county roads. I'd left the office just after sunset, the necklace tucked safely in my jacket pocket where I could feel its weight against my chest. The day had been overcast, clouds thick enough that I hadn't seen the sun all afternoon. And now darkness came early, pressing in from all sides. I didn't know what I was driving toward. Could be a creature. Could be something worse. The broken door from the inside. The destruction that sounded like something trying to escape its own skin. Those were clues, but they pointed in too many directions. Could be a shifter. Could be possessed. Could be something I'd never seen before. I carried silver because it worked on a lot of things. Iron for the fey-touched, salt for spirits, holy water for the damned. You learn to cover your bases in this job. Radio static fluttered on every channel, even the classic rock station that usually came in clear, the one that played out of a transmitter on top of Miller's Mountain, dissolved into crackling white noise the deeper I drove into the hills. I spun the dial, nothing but static and the occasional burst of what sounded like voices, too distorted to make out words. I switched it off. The silence was worse. The road felt empty in a way that made my skin itch. No deer, no raccoons, not even roadkill. Just asphalt and trees and thick darkness pressing against my windshield. I'd driven this route before, years ago. Different case, different monster. And I remembered it being alive. Animals everywhere. Eyes reflecting in the headlights every few hundred yards. Now, nothing. Even the trees seemed to lean back, as if giving something room to move. I checked my weapons. Silver-loaded revolver tucked into the shoulder holster under my jacket. Backup knife strapped to my ankle. Iron blade, wooden handle, flask of holy water in the glove box, small bag of salt, the usual kit. The necklace sat heavy in my pocket. I thought about Mrs. Addington, about the way her hands had shaken, about the guilt in her voice when she talked about running, about 52 years of marriage ending with terrible screams in the night and an empty house at dawn. I thought about Clyde, wherever he was, what had happened to him, whether he was still alive. Some creatures kill quick. Those were the merciful ones. Others took their time, played with their food, kept victims alive for days, weeks, feeding slowly. Some didn't kill at all. Just changed you into something else, something that couldn't go home. The GPS on my phone lost signal about 10 miles out from Ridgetop Hollow. I'd printed directions before leaving. Old school, the kind written on the back of a receipt. Mrs. Addington's handwriting was shaky, but clear. County Road 47, left at the Dead Oak. Third mailbox on the right. I found the Dead Oak easy enough. Lightning struck, split down the middle, branches reaching up like skeletal fingers. The kind of landmark that made you believe in omens whether you wanted to or not. The mailboxes started appearing after that, rusted, leaning, numbers faded or missing entirely. The third one had Addington painted in careful letters. The paint cracked and peeling, but still legible. I turned onto a gravel drive that crunched under my tires, the sound too loud in the unnatural quiet. The house appeared at the end of the lane, porch light flickering weakly against the heavy darkness. Clouds covered whatever moon might be up there, making the night feel pressed down, claustrophobic. I sat in the truck for a moment, engine ticking as it cooled, listened. Nothing. No crickets. No wind. Not even the distant sound of a dog barking or a car passing on the main road. Just silence and darkness and the feeling of being watched. The house looked normal, small, single-story ranch style, probably built in the 60s. Neat flower boxes under the windows, filled with wilted petunias that hadn't been watered in days. A porch swing that probably creaked in the summer, hanging still and motionless now. Paint peeling near the eaves. A garden hose coiled by the front steps. The kind of house where people grew old together, where they watched TV after dinner and argued about the thermostat and kept the same furniture for decades because it still worked fine. But something felt wrong. The front door stood open, not wide, but enough to see darkness beyond. The door frame was splintered near the lock, wood torn and jagged where something had forced it from the inside. Mrs. Addington had said the deputy found it like this, hanging open, broken, no sign of forced entry from outside. Whatever had broken that door had done it from within. I drew my revolver, checked the chamber, 6 silver rounds, blessed and ready, and stepped out of the truck. The gravel was loud under my boots. The darkness pressed close, thick enough to feel solid. I approached the house slowly, eyes scanning the tree line, the shadows between buildings, the dark spaces under the porch where something could hide. The front steps creaked under my weight. The porch boards groaned. I pushed the door open wider with my boot, keeping the revolver raised. "Clyde," I called into the darkness. "Mrs. Addington sent me. I'm here to help." No response. Just the smell. Wild, musky, hot, metallic. I stepped inside the house. The smell hit me the moment I stepped inside. Wild, musky, hot, metallic. Like a zoo cage that hadn't been cleaned in weeks, mixed with the tang of fresh blood and something sharper underneath. Fear sweat. Maybe. Panic. The kind of smell that hits the back of your throat and makes your hindbrain scream at you to run. I didn't run. I'd smelled worse. The living room looked like a creature had been tearing through reality itself. Furniture shredded. Stuffing pulled out in great clumps and scattered like snowdrifts across the floor. The armchair by the window, floral print, the kind your grandmother would have owned, had been torn apart so violently that foam and fabric covered every surface. Walls clawed down to the studs, deep gouges raking through floral wallpaper that probably hadn't been changed since the 70s, exposing yellowed drywall and splinters of wood beneath. The couch was split open, springs jutting out like broken ribs, floorboards gouged deep enough to catch a boot heel, long scratches dragged across the hardwood in sets of 4. 4 claws. My stomach tightened. A lamp lay on its side, bulb shattered into glittering fragments, shade crumpled like a collapsed lung. Family photos hung crooked on the walls, glass cracked but not broken. I could see them in the dim light filtering through from the porch. Clyde and Mrs. Addington, younger, smiling, a wedding photo, a vacation somewhere with mountains, grandkids maybe, all of it watching the destruction like silent witnesses. The TV was still on, muted, casting flickering blue light across the carnage. Some late-night infomercial selling knives. The contrast was surreal, a cheerful host demonstrating how to cut through a tin can while the room around it looked like a battlefield. I swept the room with my revolver, checking corners, checking shadows. Nothing moved. The house felt empty, but empty in the way a trap feels empty right before it springs. The destruction pattern was familiar. I'd seen it before, years ago. Different house, different victim, but the same violent desperation. The same claw marks in sets of 4. The same sense that whatever did this had been fighting itself as much as the furniture. Shifter, I thought. Has to be. But shifters usually left. They ran. Instinct drove them into the woods, into the wild, away from human spaces. They didn't stay in the house where they'd transformed, unless something was keeping it here, unless it couldn't leave. I moved carefully through the debris, boots crunching on broken glass and scattered stuffing. The kitchen was visible through a doorway to my left. More destruction. Chairs knocked over, table legs scored with deep scratches but still standing. The refrigerator door hung open, light spilling out, revealing emptied containers and what looked like claw marks scraped through the plastic shelves. Whatever it was, it had eaten. That was interesting. Meant it still had some human awareness. Pure animal would have left the fridge alone, wouldn't have known to open it. The back door hung twisted in its frame, hinges bent, wood splintered around the lock where something had tried to force it open from the inside. But it was still closed, still in the frame, however damaged. It had tried to leave, but it hadn't succeeded. Why? I checked the door more carefully. The damage was extensive, but the door itself was solid wood, old-growth timber that didn't give easily. The deadbolt had held, bent, but not broken. Whatever had tried to get out had given up before breaking through completely. Or something had stopped it. Or someone. I turned back to survey the room. No blood. That was good. Meant Clyde probably wasn't dead. Meant whatever this thing was, it hadn't fed on him. But where was he? The house had been empty when the police checked it. Mrs. Addington said they'd cleared it, but that was hours ago. Dawn. It was full night now. Things came back at night. I moved down the hallway, weapon raised. 3 doors, 1 bathroom, empty, mirror cracked, towels pulled down, 1 bedroom. The master, bed unmade, sheets tangled, nightstand where the necklace had been, empty. 1 more door, closed. I approached carefully, listening. Nothing. I tested the handle, locked, from the inside. My pulse quickened. Clyde, I called softly. I'm here to help. Your wife sent me. No response. But I heard something. Faint. Breathing. Heavy and labored. Like someone struggling. Or something waiting. I stepped back and kicked the door hard, just below the handle. Wood splintered. The lock gave. The door slammed open. A bedroom. Smaller. Guest room. Maybe dark except for the moonlight starting to filter through the window as clouds shifted outside. And in the corner, eyes. Yellow. Bright. Watching me. The creature moved, and I saw it fully for the first time. Massive, 7 feet tall, even hunched over, shoulders broad enough to fill the doorway. Covered in matted fur, gray-brown, streaked with dirt and what might have been blood. Hands that were too large, tipped with claws like railroad spikes. Face that was wrong, caught between human and animal, jaw too long, teeth too sharp. A werewolf. Jesus Christ, a werewolf. I'd heard of them, read about them, never actually seen one, until now. It stared at me with those yellow eyes, and I saw something in them that made my blood run cold. Not animal hunger, not mindless rage. Recognition, awareness, fear. Clyde, I breathed. The wolf's ears flattened against its skull, and then it lunged. The werewolf exploded out of the corner with enough force to shake the walls. Moonlight, suddenly bright as clouds parted outside, flooded through the window behind it, catching on its fur and making it glow like something half-formed from nightmare and panic. It was massive, shoulders hunched with muscle, claws like railroad spikes, teeth too long for its jaw, yellowed, sharp, dripping with saliva that hissed when it hit the floor. But it moved wrong, jerky, frantic, like something trying to escape its own skin. Each step came with a whine of effort, muscles bunching and releasing in ways that looked painful even from where I stood. I barely had time to process what I was seeing before it was on me. It crashed into me like a freight train, claws swiping across my shoulder, hot, sharp pain ripping through skin and jacket leather like they were tissue paper. My back slammed against the hallway wall hard enough to crack the drywall. Breath left me in a grunt. The revolver flew from my hand, skittering across the floor into the darkness. Perfect. The werewolf's breath washed over my face, thick with rot and fear, frenzy, and something else. Something desperate. Jaws snapped inches from my throat. So close I felt the heat and the spray of saliva. Teeth like broken glass. I could see down its throat. Red. Raw. Wrong. I twisted hard. Brought my knee up into its sternum with everything I had. The impact jarred through my leg. But it was enough. The creature grunted, a sound caught between human and animal, and I rolled sideways, scrambling down the hallway. My left arm burned. Warm blood soaked my sleeve, dripping onto the carpet. My ribs throbbed under each breath like something had come loose inside. I could taste copper at the back of my throat. I pulled the necklace from my pocket, wrapping the chain tight around my knuckles. The chain bit into my palm, the pendant pressed cold and solid against my skin. Real silver. If this thing was what I thought it was, silver would hurt it. All right, I muttered, tasting copper. Let's see if this works. The wolf charged again, faster this time, down the narrow hallway. I swung. The pendant cracked against the side of its jaw with a sound like a hammer on an anvil. The creature howled, high, sharp, pain mixed with fury, and stumbled sideways, crashing through the bathroom doorway. The medicine cabinet exploded in a shower of glass and pills. The mirror shattered. The wolf shook its head, dazed. Old scars crisscrossed its muzzle. This thing had been through this before. It whipped around faster than I could duck. Claws raked across my ribs. Deep, hot, searing pain that made my vision go white at the edges. I stumbled backward into the living room, hit the destroyed couch, felt something crack in my back. Springs dug into my spine. Maybe bone. Hard to tell in the moment when everything was pain and adrenaline and the sudden understanding that I was fighting something I'd only read about in case files and folklore. but I stayed upright. The wolf circled me, panting hard, ribs heaving under matted fur. Its yellow eyes flickered between rage and raw fear, the kind that makes even monsters look hunted. Foam dripped from its jaws, pink with blood. It wasn't trying to kill me. The realization hit suddenly. If it wanted me dead, I'd be dead. It was bigger, stronger, faster, but every attack was defensive, sloppy, desperate. It was trying to make me leave. Where is he? I pressed, still circling, keeping the ruined furniture between us. Where's Clyde Addington? The wolf's ears flattened against its skull. A low growl rumbled in its chest. Frustrated. What did you do with him? No. The word tore out, mangled through teeth that weren't made for speech. No, didn't. Jesus. It could talk. Then where is he? I demanded. The wolf shook its head violently, the gesture disturbingly human despite the animal face. It looked at me with something that might have been desperation, yellow eyes wild and pleading. Did you kill him? No. More desperate now, voice shredded and breaking. Not. Never. Then prove it. Where is Clyde? The wolf made a sound like a whine, frustrated and agonized, like it was trying to say something it didn't have the words for. But the evidence was everywhere. The destruction. The locked room where it had been hiding. The way it hadn't left the house despite trying to break through the back door. It hadn't left because it couldn't leave, because some part of it, some human part, knew that leaving meant it might hurt someone, might hurt her. So it had locked itself in the spare room and waited for the moon to pass. And then I'd shown up. You're Clyde Addington, I said slowly. The wolf's eyes met mine, yellow and wild and full of something that looked almost like relief. You transformed in the house, I said, pieces clicking together. She heard you screaming, grabbed your necklace and ran. You tried to get out the back door but couldn't break through, so you locked yourself in the spare room. The wolf nodded, the gesture disturbingly human despite the animal face. And now I'm here and you think I'm a threat to her, think I'm going to hurt her. Another nod. I'm not, I said. I promise, she's safe. She's at her sister's house. She hired me to find you and bring you home. The wolf stared at me for a long moment. Then it took a step back. And then it lunged again. Not at me, past me. Toward the front door. Toward the outside. Toward freedom. It had been denying itself for a full day and night. No, I shouted, understanding suddenly. If it got outside, if it reached the woods, it might not come back. The human part might lose completely. Clyde, wait. But it was too late. The wolf was bigger, faster, desperate. It shoved past me, heading for the open front door, for the darkness beyond. I did the only thing I could think of. I lunged after it and wrapped the silver chain around its throat. The transformation. The wolf's scream cut through the night like a knife. It collapsed on the porch, clawing at the chain around its neck, smoke rising where silver touched fur. The smell of burning filled the air, acrid, choking. I held on, using every ounce of strength I had left, keeping the chain tight. I'm sorry, I gasped. I'm sorry, but you can't leave. If you leave, you won't come back. The human part will be gone. The wolf thrashed, weaker now. The silver was doing its work, burning through the curse's hold, forcing the change backward. I'd seen this in case files. Silver could force a transformation back to human, but it was agonizing. Most hunters used it as a killing method. Wrap silver around a shifter's throat and wait for them to either suffocate or die from the burns. I wasn't trying to kill him. I was trying to save him. Fight it, I said through gritted teeth. Fight back to human. You've been doing it for years, right? The necklace helps you remember who you are. So remember her. Remember Mrs. Addington. Remember home. The wolf's struggles grew weaker, and then the transformation began. Fur began to recede, curling backward like smoke caught in reverse. Muscles shrank, bones twisted inward with wet, grinding sounds that made my stomach turn. Limbs contorting into human shape, arms shortening, legs straightening, spine crackling as it compressed. Moonlight flooded the porch now, clouds completely gone, illuminating every shift of skin and bone, every moment of agony written across a body that was remembering how to be human again. I kept the chain loose enough that he could breathe, but tight enough that the silver kept working. It was a careful balance. Too tight, and I'd kill him. Too loose, and the wolf might come back. The transformation seemed to take forever. When it finally ended, Clyde Addington lay curled on the porch, human, naked, shivering, breathing, alive. I carefully unwound the chain from his neck, my hands shaking. The burns were severe, angry red welts that would definitely scar, but he was alive and human. Mr. Addington, I said softly. He didn't respond, just lay there, breathing in shallow gasps. Eyes squeezed shut, like he was waiting for the final blow. His whole body trembled with small convulsions. I'd done this. I'd forced him back. I'd burned him with the one thing his mother had given him to keep him safe. I'm sorry, I said again. I didn't know what else to do. Still no response. I looked down at the necklace in my hand, the chain now stained with my blood and his burns, the pendant still warm from where it had touched his skin. Your wife is waiting for you, I said quietly. Let me bring you home. Finally, Clyde opened his eyes. They were brown now, human, but still full of that same animal terror. How long? He whispered, voice raw from screaming. How long what? How long was it? I don't know, I admitted. Your wife said she heard you last night around 3 a.m. It's after midnight now. Almost 2 full days. His eyes closed again. She heard me transform. She must have been so scared. She thought someone was hurting you. She grabbed your necklace to keep it safe and ran to get help. She took it to protect it, he said, voice barely audible. Even when she thought I was dying, she saved it. She saved you, I corrected. If she hadn't brought it to me, I wouldn't have had the silver I needed to bring you back. Clyde's breathing hitched. I tried to leave, tried to get out the back door. Thought if I could just get to the woods, away from houses, away from people, but the door wouldn't break. And then I remembered. I remembered her, how close her sister's house was, how many people lived on this road. I couldn't risk it. So you locked yourself in the spare room. I thought if I just stayed inside, waited it out. The full moon would pass, and I'd change back. He opened his eyes, looking at me directly for the first time. How did you know? That silver would force me back. I didn't, I admitted. Not for sure. But the case file said it could work. Said it might kill you too. But I trailed off. But it was worth the risk. Your wife hired me to bring you home. That's what I'm doing. Clyde stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he started to cry. Silent sobs shaking his whole body, tears running down his face onto the porch boards. I sat down heavily beside him, my own injuries screaming in protest. Blood from my ribs had soaked through my shirt. My arm hung useless. Every part of me hurt. But we were both alive. Through the trees, I could see the moon, full and bright, riding high in a clear sky. When did you know? I asked quietly. That it was the full moon. I didn't, Clyde said. That's the problem. I thought I had another day. I've been using the same calendar for years, and it's always been right. But this time, he shook his head. This time it was wrong. Cheap printed calendars are often off by a day or two, I said. I should have checked mine more carefully too. We sat there in silence for a while. Two men who'd both nearly died because of bad information and worse timing. Finally, I stood slowly, pain lancing through every part of me. Can you walk? I think so. Let me get you some clothes, then we're going to get you cleaned up and bring you home. Clyde looked up at me, eyes still wet with tears. Why are you helping me? I'm a monster. Yeah, I said. Once a month. The rest of the time you're a man who's been fighting this curse for how long? 43 years, he whispered. 43 years without killing anyone. 43 years of locking yourself away to protect people. That's not a monster, Mr. Addington. That's a hero. He looked at me like he didn't believe it, but desperately wanted to. I held out the necklace. He flinched. It burned you, I said, and I'm sorry, but it also brought you back. Your mother gave you this to help you remember who you are, and it worked. Even when I used it wrong, it still worked. Slowly, carefully, Clyde reached out and took the necklace from my hand. He held it like it might shatter, looking at it in the moonlight. Thank you, he said quietly. Thank your wife. She's the one who saved it. She's the one who came to find me. She's the one waiting for you to come home. Fresh tears ran down his face. Come on, I said, helping him to his feet. Let's get you cleaned up. Touched his shoulder absently. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital, told them I didn't remember what happened. Animal attack. Could have been anything. Your mother knew, I said. Not a question. She knew things, old things. Her grandmother had been from the old country, had taught her about things like this. She gave me the necklace, said it would help me remember who I was when the moon tried to make me forget. His voice cracked. It worked for 43 years. Every month, I'd wear the necklace, feel the silver against my skin, and it would keep the wolf, not caged, exactly, but aware, human aware. I'd lock myself in the basement or the spare room, and I'd ride it out. What happened this time? I took the necklace off before bed. I always do. My skin is sensitive to silver now. Can't wear it all the time. I was going to put it back on before the full moon, but I thought I had another day. The calendar said the full moon was tonight, so I went to sleep thinking I had time, and you woke up transforming. I woke up to my bones breaking, he whispered. The pain was... I screamed. Couldn't help it. I could hear her coming, heard her in the hallway, and I knew I had to get away from her. I tried to get to the back door, thought if I could just get outside, get away from her, but the door wouldn't break fast enough and I was losing myself. So I locked myself in the spare room and I just held on. For 2 days. I don't remember most of it. The wolf was in control, but some part of me was still there, still aware. I knew I couldn't leave the house, knew if I got out, I might hurt someone, might hurt her, so I stayed. And when I showed up, you smelled like a stranger. The wolf thought you were a threat, thought you were going to hurt her. He looked at me with haunted eyes. I tried to tell you, tried to make you understand, but the words wouldn't come out right. I know, I said. I heard you. I just didn't understand until it was almost too late. We drove in silence for a while. I thought about all the cases I'd worked, all the creatures I'd hunted, all the times I'd heard the words, I didn't mean to, and please don't, and I'm still human inside. I'd learned to ignore those pleas, learned that monsters lie. But Clyde Addington hadn't been lying. He'd been telling the truth, and I'd almost killed him for it. What happens now? Clyde asked quietly. Now we get you home. We get you cleaned up. We figure out how to make sure this doesn't happen again. How? Better moon tracking. Real astronomical calendars. The kind that track the moon's phases to the hour, not just the day. Maybe stronger locks on the spare room. Maybe silver reinforced restraints you can put on before the transformation starts. I glanced at him. You've been managing this alone for 43 years. Imagine what you could do with help. You'd help me? His voice was small, disbelieving. Your wife hired me to find you and bring you home. That's what I'm doing. But this doesn't end here. You need support. You need better tools. And you need to know you're not alone anymore. Clyde stared out the window, tears running silently down his face. She's going to hate me, he whispered. When she sees what I am, what I've been hiding all these years. She's not going to hate you, I said. She's going to be relieved you're alive. But when she knows, she already knows something was wrong. She heard you transform. She saw the house. She's not stupid. She might not have the word for it yet, but she knows you're not normal. And she came looking for help anyway. She didn't run and never looked back. She ran to save your necklace, got help, and told me to bring you home. I paused. That's not the reaction of someone who's going to abandon you. He didn't respond, but his breathing had steadied slightly. Mrs. Addington was still awake when I pulled into their driveway. She opened the door before I could knock, like she'd been standing there all night, face pale and drawn. When she saw Clyde, wearing my jacket over his clothes, barefoot despite the shoes I'd tried to find, moving slow and careful like everything hurt, she didn't scream. She didn't ask questions. She didn't even hesitate. She just took his hand and led him inside. He followed her like a child, fingers wrapped tight around hers like she was the only real thing left in the world. I stood on the porch, bleeding onto their welcome mat, and watched through the window. Mrs. Addington sat Clyde down at the kitchen table, the same table they'd probably eaten breakfast at 10,000 times, where they'd shared coffee and conversation and comfortable silences built over decades. The table bore shallow scratches from the transformation, but it still stood. She wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, the kind that's been washed so many times it's soft as breath. She saw the burns on his neck. Her hand went to her mouth, but she didn't pull away. She just moved to the stove and put the kettle on. Making tea, the way you do when there's nothing else to offer, when words aren't enough and action is all that's left. Clyde stared at the table, at the wood grain worn smooth from years of use. His hands lay flat on the surface, trembling. Mrs. Addington brought 2 mugs, set one in front of him, kept one for herself. She sat down across from him and just waited. Patient, present, like she had all the time in the world. Then she reached across the table and took his hand. He flinched like he'd been burned, but she held on. "I'm sorry," he said, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I should have told you. Should have." "Shh," she said softly. "You're home. That's all that matters. But He couldn't say it. "I know," she said simply. He looked up at her, eyes wide with shock. You know, I heard you, Clyde. I heard what was happening, and I saw the house. I'm old, but I'm not blind." She squeezed his hand. "I don't know what to call it. Don't know the word for it. But I know it's you. And I know you've been fighting it. Fighting to protect me. Fighting to stay human. For 43 years, he whispered. 43 years, she repeated, and her voice held wonder, not fear. "All this time, you've been dealing with this alone. Never told me. Never let me help. I couldn't. If you knew, if you saw, I'm seeing now," she said firmly. "And I'm still here. I'm still your wife. Nothing changes that." Clyde broke then, silent sobs shaking his whole body, decades of secrecy and fear finally cracking open. Mrs. Addington stood and moved to his side, wrapping her arms around him from behind, holding him while he cried. She kissed the top of his head, running her hand through his thin white hair like she'd probably done every day for 52 years. I turned away, giving them privacy they probably didn't know they had. The necklace was on the kitchen counter where Clyde had set it. I could see it through the window, catching the kitchen light. They'd need better tools for next month, better tracking, better containment. But tonight, they just needed each other. I walked back to my truck, each step sending fresh pain through my ribs. Blood had dried stiff down my side. My jacket was gone, draped over Clyde, so the night air cut cold through my shredded shirt. I sat in my truck for a long moment, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. I'd been doing this work for 8 years. 8 years of hunting things that shouldn't exist. 8 years of learning patterns, developing instincts, building rules to keep myself alive. Rule number 1 had always been, monsters lie. But tonight I'd learned something else. Sometimes monsters tell the truth. And sometimes the scariest thing isn't the creature hiding in the dark. It's realizing the creature was human all along, was fighting to stay human, was doing everything in their power to protect the people they loved from what they'd become. I thought about all the cases I'd worked, all the creatures I'd hunted. How many of them had been like Clyde? How many had been trying to tell me something true, and I'd just assumed it was another lie? How many had I gotten wrong? I didn't want to know the answer to that question. I drove away as the moon began its slow descent toward the horizon, still bright and full, its work done for the night. In my rearview mirror, I saw a light come on in the Addington house, a kitchen light, warm and steady, like coming home. Some monsters lie, some monsters beg, but some monsters, like Clyde, tell the truth even when no one's listening.